Narcissists rage, psychopaths rage, even professors of psychology rage. Don't ask. And the question, of course, is narcissistic rage the same as psychopathic rage? Or are there major psychodynamic differences between the two? That is the topic of today's video. My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited, and the raging professor of psychology in several universities, whose unfortunate students are at my complete mercy. Okay, Shoshanim, you've had enough of my creepy laugh. Let's go and discuss the topic. Let's delve right in. Unlike psychopathic rage, narcissistic rage is short-term. There's a flare-up, there's an eruption, there's a kind of trigger, and then there is a disproportionate, over-the-top, totally crazy to be frank, explosive anger, display. It's very ostentatious, it's very exhibitionistic, and it rarely culminates in violence. Because narcissistic rage is a form of self-regulation. And this is a major difference. There's a major difference between this and psychopathic rage. Psychopathic rage is terrifying to behold, as terrifying as narcissistic rage, but it has nothing to do with self-regulation. It's not about regulating the psychopath's internal environment. Whereas a narcissist uses displays of rage to kind of convince himself of his omnipotence, his divinity, his, the psychopath rages mainly when he is frustrated. Now, before you all jump down my throat, half of all narcissists are women. I'm going to use the male gender pronoun because I'm a Victorian male chauvinist. Okay, so that's the first difference. The first distinction is that psychopathic rage is about expressing, channeling frustration. It is a perfect example of Dollar's frustration aggression hypothesis, whereas narcissistic rage is a form of self-regulation. It's kind of internal communication. It's as if the narcissist is putting up some kind of stage production, mainly to convince himself rather than others. We'll come to it in a minute. Narcissistic rage is reactive. It is triggered by something, but this something doesn't have to be external. For example, when the narcissist anticipates humiliation and rejection, a narcissist may react with rage. Same applies to some extent to the borderline. The borderline has anticipatory anxiety. Borderline anticipates rejection, abandonment, and reacts accordingly, whereas the narcissist anticipates humiliation, shaming, exposure, denigration, and generally speaking, being discriminated against and treated unjustly. And so the narcissist rage emanates from a victimhood narrative, a morality play, where the narcissist is the eternal victim and everyone, absolutely everyone, conspires against him, is out to take him down, hates him, and so on and so forth. So narcissistic rage is reactive when you insult the narcissist, when there's a slight, when there is criticism or disagreement with the narcissist. Then, of course, this may trigger or provoke narcissistic rage. But at the same time, the narcissist has paranoid ideation and hypervigilance, and he may react with rage to totally imaginary slights, to innocuous comments and behaviors, and this involves a mechanism known as referential ideation and hostile attribution bias. So, narcissistic rage is reactive. But I said earlier that it has something to do with the narcissist's need to regulate his sense of self-worth, his grandiose, fantastic, inflated self-concept. In other words, narcissistic rage is intimately connected to the cognitive distortion known as grandiosity. It is self-enhancing. The rage is self-enhancing. The narcissist perceives a challenge to the vulnerable, fragile self-concept, to the implicit self-esteem, as it is called in clinical literature, and then the narcissist reacts with restoration of his alleged omnipotence, divinity, and so on. So it's restorative. Narcissistic rage is restorative. It restores the grandiosity or the grandiose narrative of the self-concept. And in this sense, narcissistic rage regulates the narcissist's internal environment by providing visible, ostentatious, in-your-face, dramatic, terrifying self-enhancement. Psychopathic rage is completely different. The psychopath is goal-oriented, and so psychopathic rage is Machiavellian. It's manipulative. It's goal-focused. Then the psychopath rages because he wants to accomplish something. He wants to change your behavior. He wants to take something away from you. He wants you to give him something. He wants you to comply with his wishes and demands. The rage is highly instrumental. So this is instrumental, weaponized rage. And it is goal-oriented. Sometimes, more rarely, psychopaths engage in purging behaviors. The rage is purges the psychopath. It's a form of externalized aggression. It's as if there's a volcano there inside the psychopath, and there are pressures building up, magma and lava and I don't know what else, building up, and then this pressure erupts, cleansing the psychopath. So the psychopathic rage is a kind of self-inflicted purgatory, and it lasts for as long as it takes to accomplish the goal, or until the frustrating object is eliminated or punished. So, narcissistic rage is a reaction to a real or imagined trigger and has to do with restoring the narcissist's sense of inflated, fantastic grandiosity. So, self-regulation. That's the reason it is dramatic. It's like a theater production. It's like a movie. And that's the reason it's disproportionate. Because the narcissist is God. It's the wrath of God. Psychopathic rage is much more limited. However, it's manipulative. It's goal-oriented. And it's intended to accomplish something. It lasts for as long as it takes to accomplish the goal. There's another type of psychopathic rage, the purging rage. And that goes on until the frustrating object, the object that gave the psychopath kind of frustration, is eliminated or punished. One of the main functions and outcomes of rage is that, of course, it negates intimacy. It's very difficult to be intimate with someone who rages at you, or rages in general, negative affectivity. Someone who is constantly negative in a highly vociferous, aggressive, violent, visible, ostentatious, exhibitionistic way. It's very difficult to love them, to care for them, to be attracted to them. It's very unattractive, and it negates intimacy. And so one of the main functions of narcissistic rage mainly is about self-denial of happiness and love. The rage destroys all sources of happiness and all founts of love. The rage takes care to make sure that the narcissist never ever experiences love and happiness, because he destroys the very people and the very situations and the very jobs and the very job prospects and the very circumstances and the very collectives and the very everything that could give him happiness and love. It's a rejection of life as Hervey Cleckley observed. The narcissist's rage is destructive, is self-defeating. But at the same time, the rage of the narcissist confirms to the narcissist the internalized bad object. So, on the one hand, the rage pushes away and obliterates any potential for love and happiness and contentment and accomplishments and so on and so forth, self-defeating, self-destructive. But even as it is self-defeating and destructive, it's perceived as just. It's associated with a deep sensation of justice. And above all, it's the justice meted out to the narcissist himself as their incarnation and reification of an internalized bad object. The voice that keeps telling the narcissist, you're unworthy, you're unlovable, you're inadequate, you are a failure, and you need to be punished for your shortcomings. And the rage brings on the punishment by denying the narcissist happiness and love. So the rage in the case of narcissism, pathological narcissism, the rage fulfills a dual function, two functions, and these two functions are mutually exclusive, and this creates constant dissonance. The first function, you're bad, you're unworthy, you're unlovable, you deserve to be punished, and the rage will end up punishing you, will end up destroying your life. That's one function. Second function, you're godlike, you're perfect, you're superior, you are omnipotent, you're all-powerful. And so the rage is going to prove it. It's going to prove it above all to yourself, but also to other people. You're going to rage as a display and exhibition of who you truly are, and who you truly are is a divinity, a deity. So at the same time, the narcissist's rage is sending mixed signals to the narcissist, above all to the narcissist. Mixed signals. You're nothing, you're a loser, you're a failure, you're unworthy, you're inadequate, you deserve punishment. That's one message, one signal. And the other message, you're godlike. It's the wrath of God. Your rage terrifies everyone. You control everything. You're the master and the boss and in charge and so on. And these two messages are, of course, incompatible. And they create a permanent sense of dissonance in the narcissist. And they lead to another round of rage in a desperate attempt to resolve the dissonance via the gaze of other people. Say, narcissist wants other people to tell him, yeah, you're godlike. Your rage is so impressive. It's awe-inspiring, shock and awe. It's amazing. It's a fireworks display of superiority and supremacy. And so the narcissist wants to compel other people to resolve the dissonance for him. He wants to use rage to force other people or coerce other people to tell him that he is perfect, that he is divine, that he is omnipotent, that he is brilliant, that he is unequaled and unprecedented. And so, in this restricted sense, the rage is instrumental. And of course, it doesn't resolve the problem, because never mind how frightened and terrified and terrorized people are, never mind how they inform the narcissist of his alleged superiority and ostensible supremacy, the internalized bad object is there. And it's working full-time, overtime. And it constantly is informing the narcissist, sending the narcissist exactly the opposite message. You're nobody, you're nothing. You don't deserve to live. And so there is this constant tension between the two messages of the rage, internal messages of the rage, the way the rage is interpreted by the narcissist himself, and the conflict between the narcissist's internalized bad object, this constellation or cluster of voices that disparage the narcissist, put him down, this attempt to destroy him from the inside, and what people are saying. So there's always this clash. And the desperate attempt to resolve the dissonance between bad object and self-concept never succeeds. Never succeeds because both omnipotence and unworthiness, unlovability are preserved by the rage. So this leads us to early work by Otto Kernberg in the 70s, where Kernberg suggested that the grandiose self-concept is not only compensatory, but it is the only defense against, is only bulwark against borderline self-destruction. He said that pathological narcissism is a defense against borderline impulses, borderline dysregulation, and borderline dynamics. And we see this in action in narcissistic rage. The rage is, of course, a form of emotion dysregulation. It's highly borderline, and indeed borderline rage as well. And yet the narcissist reframes the rage, embeds it in a fantastic narrative which is self-enhancing and self-aggrandizing and self-justifying. And the narcissist desperately attempts to silence the internalized bad object with the rage. It's as if making external noise will drown the internal noise. And you could say, therefore, that the rage is a narcissist's way of attempting to cope with the bad object, to quell it, to reframe it maybe, to rewrite it, to do something with it. It's narcissistic rage seems to be an internal strategy for coping with a bad object. This leads to a larger insight that mental health disorders in general are could be divided. I could offer a nosology or a taxonomy of mental health disorders, which is divided in three. We have mental health disorders that mirror something. There's something healthy, there's something normal. You put a mirror to it, you get the reverse reflection. You see, in the mirror, you see yourself reversed, of course. So a mirror doesn't provide you with an accurate reflection, it provides you with the wrong information about yourself. And so there are certain mental health disorders that are mirror disorders. They reflect erroneously healthy, normal dynamics. There are other mental health disorders that are distortion disorders. These are disorders that involve an exaggeration of healthy, normal features and traits, a rearrangement of these traits in combinations that yield psychopathology. So, narcissism is an example. And then you have hybrids, disorders that are both mirroring and distorting. And so, when we discuss narcissistic rage, it is an attempt to combine mirroring elements, psychopathological mirroring elements, with psychopathological distorting elements. Like, the narcissist says, I'm going to exaggerate my anger, and by exaggerating my anger, I'm going to rearrange my internal world, not the external world, my internal world, in a way that would reflect normalcy or normality, would reflect health. So I'm going to rearrange my internal world to render it efficacious, functional, healthy. So the narcissist attempts to distort a normal affect and to distort it in order to accomplish an escape from the mirror disorder. And then what the narcissist ends up doing is ends up creating a hybrid disorder where there are mirror elements and distortion elements. And so narcissistic rage is probably one of the three most dysfunctional behaviors of narcissists in this sense. It exacerbates the disorder, makes it much worse. And no wonder that narcissistic rage is often coupled with what could easily be described as psychotic micro-episodes, as borderline dysregulation, or borderline regression easily, because the narcissist introduces via the vehicle, via the instrument of narcissistic rage, the narcissist introduces into his basic foundational disorder, he introduces elements from other disorders. He converts his disorder from a pure distortion disorder to a hybrid disorder. All these are ways of coping with grief and with dysphoria. Both the grief and the dysphoria are strongly attached to the internalized bad object. You could even say that grief and dysphoria are ways of cathecting, investing emotional psychic energy in the internalized bad object. Grief and dysphoria are crucial elements in pathological narcissism, in borderline personality disorder. I also believe that in psychopathy. The problem again is that grief and dysphoria, which usually co-occur, they're usually comorbid in pathological narcissism, are again mutually exclusive. They are again a form of mirror disorder, because grief is past oriented, whereas depression is future oriented. You could say that depression is a kind of anticipatory grief, like anticipating something that would cause you to mourn or to grieve. When you anticipate a bad, hopeless future, you become depressed. When you recall your bad, hopeless past, you grieve. And so depression has a close affinity to grief, but different time orientation, temporal orientation. And in pathological narcissism, the desperate attempt to reconcile interminable, infinite grief, all-consuming grief, with the prospect of equally potent, equally powerful depression, the solution the narcissist comes up with is the grandiose self-concept. The grandiose self-concept reconciles the grief and the depression. The grandiose self-concept says, no need to be depressed because I'm godlike and there's magical thinking. Anything I put my mind to, I'm going to accomplish and so on. And also no need to grieve because the trauma and abuse that you have suffered and the adverse circumstances or mistreatment or bad parenting or whatever it was, they've led to an excellent outcome. They've made you a god. So the grandiose self-concept is a narrative that seeks to eliminate grief and depression. And it is when these attempts fail, when the grief breaks through or the depression breaks through, that narcissistic rage is triggered. And so we can now put everything together and say that narcissism is narcissistic rage is a reaction to internal frustration, whereas psychopathic rage is a reaction to external frustration. Grief or a depressive posture, a grief posture or a depressive posture it is the way of the world. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a form of helplessness, a form of self-minimization. But the narcissist clings, demands, rages. He goes against the way of the world. He's a rebel with a cause. And this is facilitated and mediated by hubris, grandiosity. The narcissist rebels because he feels entitled to special treatment. And when he fails to secure it, he rages. The psychopath rebels because he was on his way to accomplishing something, and some people frustrated him. Some people impeded his efforts, and he wants to eliminate them and destroy them and punish them and kill them in some cases. These are completely two different psychological phenomena. They appear to be the same, rage, but they're not the same. And I haven't yet broached the topic of borderline rage, which is a major clinical feature of borderline and requires an elaboration in a separate video. If I continue, you're going to rage at me, and I'm very afraid of you. Bye bye, everyone.